I'd like to call this public hearing to order. I would like to introduce Ms. Kelly Sink first from MRPC to present this. While she's coming to the podium, everybody that is here in attendance, I'd ask that you please silence your cellular phones or any other electronic devices.
Hello. This is the public hearing that is necessary for the city to turn in its community development block grant application to the Missouri Department of Economic Development. This is for a mitigation grant, which is a certain pot of funds that they offer, a competitive grant that is due on Friday. And the city is applying for $100,000 in CDBG funds to replace the old storm siren system with a new system. And we'll provide some cash and some in-kind services to help with that project to make sure that the old sirens are decommissioned and the new sirens installed and so on. So the public hearing really is just to take any comments from the public and allow for that. I did, I've got a sign-in sheet going around to get everyone's signatures. We turn in a sign-in sheet with the public hearing. So I know, Sally, you had a lot of questions. I think that your answers pretty much covered most anything. I would probably have a question from the audience on, but I don't know. But I would be willing to answer any questions as far as the program and the application itself. I would probably leave it to those a little more well-versed in storm sirens to answer any of those questions for you all.
Okay. Do you want me to lead off with reading this into the record?
You certainly can,
Well,
but
that way
I think I'm just going to include it
Okay,
with
but that way
the,
those viewing at home, because we do broadcast our meetings.
Oh, okay.
Can receive the benefit of this as well.
Okay, yeah, certainly.
Okay, I'll go ahead then if that's
Okay.
okay. So I did receive a list of questions in advance of the public hearing, and so I'm going to read these into the record. Just a quick note, for anyone who's wanting copies of handouts, we do have some handouts. I don't know if we have enough for everyone here this evening, but there are both maps of the locations of storm sirens, the current ones as well as the proposed, and then there is a copy of the printed, these responses to the questions. So I'll go ahead and read these into the record. So first of all, thank you to those who submitted questions in advance. I'm going to provide responses based on information currently available. So the first question, where can a copy of the city's community development block grant mitigation application be viewed? So this mitigation application will be available upon request after this Friday when it is submitted. The second one, how many proposals for a storm warning system were received in addition to Wayland's proposal of $110,000, and where can they be viewed? Bids or proposals have not yet been formally requested. The reason for that, no company would hold pricing for the duration of time it will take to apply for and be awarded grant funding. It is necessary for staff to do research about types of systems available that we can use to submit grant applications and then later request formal bids or proposals if we're awarded the grant funding. The next question, where can a copy of the details that resulted in the cost increase from $110,000 to $133,532 be viewed? So that is referencing a former grant, a SEMA grant, State Emergency Management Grant that the city had applied for the sirens. And so first of all, that grant has not been awarded. We applied for it. That was actually a pre-application, and I'll address that in a later question. But the difference basically is the decommissioning of the current system. That was not included in the cost estimates for the SEMA grant. So the SEMA grant had a base quote of $98,056. There was a solar option of $2,995 with a 5% contingency of $5,053 for a total budget of $106,104. In the city's budget, we included $110,000 for that. This grant, the CDBG cost estimates, are the same $98,056 base quote, the same $2,995 solar option, the same 5% contingency of $5,053. Then we included in this grant a removal of the old sirens at a cost of $11,396. That would be contracted services. There's $10,000 to MRPC for their administration of the grant for us. And then there's an additional $6,032 of in-kind services that city staff would provide. That brings it to a total of $133,532. Funding sources, the SEMA grant, formerly, SEMA funding was $82,500. The city match of 25% was $27,500 with a total project of $110,000. Again, that application did not include the decommissioning of the old sirens. For this grant, the funding sources would be the CDBG at $100,000, which is the maximum funding allowed. City cash of $27,500 as the city budgeted. City in kind of $6,032 for a total project of $133,532. So again, the SEMA grant required a 25% grant match, The CDBG matches for this program are not specific, but higher matches make applications more competitive. The next question, is the $27,500 cash contribution from the city currently available? If so, where? If not, where will it come from? So the $27,500 cash contribution is allocated in the 24-25 budget year under the capital improvement budget and was included in the capital improvement plan. Was the SEMA grant of $82,500 awarded? And I kind of already addressed that. It has not been awarded. The SEMA grant was a pre-application. And if SEMA receives funding for the program, they'll review the pre-applications and send invitations to those communities whose projects they would like to consider. The CDBG grant is an alternate funding application for the same project, and if awarded, the city would only be accepting one of the grants. So applying for a grant funding does not commit the city to accepting the funding. That only happens with a grant agreement once it's been awarded. Is there a required match for the CDBG grant? And if so, what is it? So the match for the CDBG grant is anything over the $100,000, which is the maximum funding from CDBG. They prefer to see both monetary and in-kind support for projects, and our proposed match is the $27,500 that was already budgeted, plus the in-kind services. Would the new warning system be used for multiple purposes, such as boil advisories? So the proposed system is designed for multi-purpose use, which could include boil advisories, severe weather warnings, and other critical public safety announcements. What city departments will be responsible for the $6,032 in-kind work, and how will it be covered given current workloads? The in-kind work will primarily involve the city's Public Works Department, and more specifically the electric crew, for removal and dismantling of the current sirens. The city will have a notice prior to work being performed and will schedule workloads to ensure no disruption to regular services. Was repairing the current 9 siren system considered, and what were the estimated costs? Yes, repairing the existing system was evaluated. However, at a cost of roughly $20,000 to $25,000 to repair one and replace a second siren in the spring of 2022, and adding that there are still issues with those sirens and the aging system is requiring more maintenance, the cost to bring the aging system to full functionality are adding up quickly. And with limited warranties on repairs, it is a better financial move to simply replace the system with modern components and upgraded capabilities. And then CDBG mitigation funds cannot be used for repairs of existing systems. Is there another city of similar size? Actually, I'll come back to this question here in a moment. The next one, if only 2 sirens are installed, where will they be located, and has noise testing been conducted? So for those who picked up the maps, the map on the first page shows the little dots, shows where all the existing sirens are. 2 of those are blue. Those are where the new sirens would go. So the 2 sirens are planned for strategic locations to maximize coverage, and we'll be utilizing 2 existing siren locations. One at Carty and Ellis Street, so roughly at US Foods, and one at West Franklin Street and South Grand Avenue, or the old fairgrounds. Noise testing has not been conducted due to the fact that there are currently storm sirens already at these locations. Storm sirens are recommended to be at the 120 decibel range. The Wayland system, as spec'd out, is 129 decibels at 100 feet with an estimated 70 decibels at 6,100 feet, and are omnidirectional with 360-degree coverage. Why is a big voice system necessary, and what are its benefits compared to cheaper systems? First of all, as I mentioned earlier, the cost to repair or replace our existing system, if you add it all up, would be about the same as what replacing it would be. This type of system provides clear, intelligible voice alerts that are more versatile than traditional sirens, enhancing public safety in emergencies by adding the ability to communicate a variety of complex messages as opposed to simply a storm warning. The system is designed to withstand severe weather, ensuring reliability. And so I'll come back to this question, and then I'll ask our chief of police to come address this, since he did the primary research for the system. So is there another city of similar size using a 2-siren system, and what are their results? Do you want to go ahead and come up, chief? And so as he's coming up here, I will say that with with the information we had received, there were 2 pages of references for Missouri cities and counties. And so there were a vast number of references, and Chief has actually spoken with some of those representatives from some of those communities, so I'll let him address that question.
So when I started this, excuse me, when we started this, I was asked to look at municipalities or other cities, counties that utilize the same system. And the system that is presented is a Whalen, it's a stack system. You can gain more decibels by the more components that you lock together is kind of the way the system works. And so I spoke with, excuse me, with Peabody, Missouri, and it's a town that's very similar in size as far as square miles. They were the only place that I spoke with that said they had a problem, and the problem simply consisted of the voice alert prior to the sounding or testing of the sirens. They said that the problem corrected because they tested it immediately after, and the voice prompt worked properly the second time. They've not had any issues since. Give me just a second. Spoke with St. Charles, which is a town that's considerably larger, but they use quite a few more. And so as I was researching through this, there's basically a top 3 in the siren market. Whalen is kind of the pinnacle of that. There's another company called Federal Signal that produces storm sirens. But when you started comparing them out, the Whalen system actually has a farther range than what some of the others do because of the way the sirens are made to work. They use a 2-stage system, so it pushes sound out at different hertz levels. So it might be a 300 and a 500, or an 800 and a 300. And so the effect is that you have a higher pitch that most people can hear. The other part of that is people that don't hear high noises, they can actually kind of feel the vibration down in that lower hertz range. And so it makes it more effective than just like a single stage system that only offers one frequency. The other part of that is from the agencies that I spoke with, they said their range is actually farther than what was advertised, that it could be heard in any direction at 3 miles. Spoke with St. Charles County, which is not the same as St. Charles City. They have between 70 and 74 of the same siren systems that we're getting 2 of, or proposing to get 2 of. They've had 0 issues with them. They've had them in place for 4 years. Spoke with their emergency communications director. And then one of the other questions was whether or not they could be heard inside of a residence. Because there's a concern with some of our sirens. We have some that aren't functioning properly, and people say they can't hear them inside the home. The new system, because of the dual hertz range, allows for people to actually hear them inside of a home, which kind of the point of a storm siren is to get people indoors and out and away from, blowing debris, lightning, whatever it might be associated with the storm. And so, hold on just a second, this thing keeps kicking off on me for some reason. Also spoke with Also Herculaneum, they're border cities, and in Lincoln County. And so all of those places use the same type of system, maybe a different configuration as far as the height of the actual unit, or the size of the actual unit based on coverage. Ours was put together from a potential bidder, potential supplier, that would best cover a range. And do we have a copy of that map maybe that we could make available that shows what the coverage range?
The second page of that.
Is it on here? I didn't see the second page. Okay, so that's the overlap coverage. And those locations would be at Franklin and Grand, and then Honcardi, I believe. And so the overlap actually extends out into the county a considerable distance. And when compared to our current system, 2 sirens would actually cover more area than the 8 that we have in place. There was also a question, Stacy had asked me about, it's called a TDD, and telecommunications for deaf and disabled is what that relates to. And so when I was speaking with St. Charles County, they said that as a part of their enhanced 911, that they had the ability to do texts, kind of like a text tree or a mass text, to notify people of siren testing. The other thing that comes with the dual stage system is people that are hard of hearing or deaf can actually feel the hertz vibrations coming off the sirens. And so the other part of that is that they said, and we are in line for this, we're actually had put together a bid, and I'm kind of jumping track here. The enhanced 911 services that are going to be coming to Dent County as part of a 13-county region will address the TDD aspect of this system. There will be a component in there that will allow for communication for the deaf or disabled, someone that might not be able to be somewhere where they could hear it, to take appropriate action for their own safety. So, questions?
Joe?
Yes, sir.
You said there was basically 3 systems, the Wayland?
Yes, Federal Signal is another one. And the last company, when I started looking at them, what I tried to do was compare apples to apples.
Right.
And so I didn't want to compare a Federal Signal system with the Wayland system that we had originally requested a bid on. And then when I started looking through the number of municipalities and counties throughout the state, the Wayland emerged as the top system used. And not just in Missouri. I mean, it goes as far north as Ontario, Canada, Tennessee, all the surrounding states. Wayland is kind of the industry leader in storm siren systems. And feel free to research. I mean, I would think that you would find the same thing, because I didn't look for the company's sales pitch, for somebody to sell you something.
Sure.
There are like Reddit forums that cover storm sirens. There are shorts on YouTube and other places that you can go with specific siren numbers to look and see what that tone actually sounds like. Excuse me, and see what other municipalities and cities are using those same systems. For some reason, there's a lot of places that maybe concerned citizens actually film the sirens while they're testing them for whatever reason. Maybe as a record to prove that they're working.
Did I catch right? St. Charles has had this system in place for 4?
Yes, St. Charles County.
St. Charles County.
And
What
in
about?
St. Charles? They said 3, or the lady wasn't sure. She said 3 to 3.5 years.
Okay. What about Cuba?
I'm sorry?
How long is Cuba?
I didn't speak with anyone from Cuba. I spoke with Peevely, Herculaneum, Lincoln County, St. Charles County, and St. Charles, the city.
Any recently installed?
No, they're all within the 2 to 4 year range.
Okay.
But no one is reporting any issues. And the one that St. Charles County did have some that were affected by weather, and they were still under warranty. And the company that they had purchased from They said worked well with them on replacement or repair, whatever was needed.
All right, I don't have any more. Thank you.
Any others? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Question.
Is there any questions from the audience?
Come up.
Come up to the podium, please.
In looking at the coverage map, it looks like one unit would do the whole city. So had we considered just using one?
I haven't.
I don't think one of these, the whole city.
He said that one of these, the range would cover the whole city, so have we considered one?
That's what he said, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No.
Hang on. Oh, go ahead.
No, you can, well,
is
mine
all
kind of goes along with what he's saying. Now, he's saying one, and I'm, who decided two, and why only two? Because I'm thinking we might need more than two, and he's thinking only one, that we only need one, so you can maybe answer both of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trace, I have a question that'll fall into the same thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. You see that the two coverage circles are like a Venn diagram, and the coverage overlap seems like a lot. It does. And so, is it cheaper to use the infrastructure that's currently there for two sirens? Is that how those two locations were chosen?
I can't hear anything.
So, Administrator Burbridge said that we'd be using places to put, if this all happens, places where there are already sirens, those two places. Okay, so you follow it. So I'm wondering the same thing.
So Lisa's question was about existing infrastructure, and then Todd's was about why we wouldn't have one siren for the coverage. And then sorry, Trina's question was why we wouldn't have more. Okay, and so to that, what they did, they didn't just go with existing siren locations for this choice. What they did was they went to high ground. And so Salem sits at about 1,180 feet above sea level. There are some higher points in town, about 1,210, I think is our highest. And so what we had to find was we had to find two places that were polar opposites, that were on similar elevations. And so the elevation on Carty Street at US Foods is very similar to the elevation for the Grand Street and Franklin location. So they're sitting in about that 1150 range, something like that. And so what they wanted for sure was they wanted to be able to concentrate the sound where we would have the highest concentrations of people. And so when you look at this overlap, you'll find that that overlap goes a long ways towards the schools. It will cover the high school, Doss Road, the elementary school there, William Lynch, of course. Yep, there you go.
Sorry, I forgot they were in the packet.
Oh, yeah, no, that makes it so much easier. That way everyone can see it. And so the choices for the location weren't just kind of haphazard. The other part of that is that you will get a type of absorption on sound waves, especially in the summertime or in the early spring when we have a lot more leaf cover, when there's a lot more going on, with trees and all that stuff. And so the other thing to consider is these have to sit on what they call Class A poles or Class 1 poles, and so they're a taller pole and a sturdier pole that will require some prep work before the pole's even put in to be able to withstand the kind of weight they'll have at that height. And so the other part of that was, as we chose locations where that in the event something did happen, that if they fell, they would be far enough away from any kind of established residences so that they wouldn't impact those. And so the final aspect of that is because they use a two-stage system, this allows for greater coverage when you have the two. It's like, Mr. Hanbacker could help me out on this. It's kind of a physics principle, how certain waves can combine and reach even. I'm sorry?
They'll cancel sometimes.
Yeah, well, they can cancel sometimes, but then they can also augment if they're like increase what the range is. And so the selection for these particular sirens, the company came in and researched the area. They were here for a couple days looking for the best spots. They also have to have a certain amount of power to run to them. They're 220 volt system, so they don't require a three-phase or anything like that, but they just needed to make sure that what we had in place, that they didn't want to have to run additional wire, because if you have a pole that's this high and a pole this high, the wire that reaches this one may not reach this one without putting undue strain on the pole to tilt it over. So a lot of things went into the location of where those current sirens sit. Go ahead.
I was just wondering about the old system. Is it going to be used as a redundancy system, or it's going to be removed?
Okay, and so a couple of things with that, and sorry for bunny trailing here. There's two things I'll say to that. The company that the city had used in times past, which was one of the few that was able to actually do siren repair, it's a very lost type of technology when it comes to repairing those. Almost nobody repairs them. And so some of the sirens that we have taken, for example, the siren system in front of U.S. Food Service, I believe I said that was put in 83 or 86, I believe is when one of those on the east side was put in.
Fell down by my house.
Do you live over on Carty?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that one by Carty Street, or on Carty Street, is a very tall system, and it's been in place for 40 plus years.
I was just wondering if, not repair it, but if it would be used as a redundancy system.
As a backup in the event the other one failed.
If the other one failed.
No,
But it's going to be taken out or just left?
no. What we're going to do, the plan is because the location on Carty Street, for example, is where one of the new Wayland systems would go. And so the plan is and we spoke about this last week, I believe it was last week, taking all of the siren systems that we have that are still functioning and putting those up for sale to other municipalities. Because some of these sirens, they can cost $40,000 individually. And the last one that we purchased, the one on 10th Street, was purchased several years ago at a cost of around that, and it was a used system. We couldn't afford to buy a new system. And 12 years ago, 13 years ago, whenever it was replaced, the technology wasn't what it is today. And so the new systems are a lot more reliable. They don't have moving parts. Some of the sirens that the city have are actually mechanical sirens. You think the old time crank up World War II air raid type, they actually have mechanical components to them. Some of them are strictly electronic. But then when we have as many as we do, you can do the math. It's $320,000 to replace everything we got with something similar.
I wasn't thinking of that. I was just wondering if it would be torn down or used as a.
Well, and so to that, to answer the rest of that question, the thought is, was it through MPUA that we would do those sirens through?
No.
You said somebody.
Well, we would hire a crane service.
No, I meant what to offload them, the old
Oh, well, I mean, we've discussed that we would surplus them and then see about if we could sell them for a community who maybe has a similar system and needs replacements.
And with components that we have that are still in good shape, the goal always is to offset costs so that we're not passing so much down to ourselves, us, the taxpayers. So that's kind of the goal, is to make sure that we're offsetting that. Because take, for example, the siren system at Franklin and Grand, the old fairgrounds, that one's fairly new, and we would be able to recoup, I feel like, a good percentage, at least maybe a third, to maybe a little more of what its installation cost was.
And that money would be used to offset.
Well, it would go back to general revenue would be my thought,
Go
but
back to general.
but with the understanding that, it could offset the cost of this. I mean, it all comes from the same cookie jar, so to speak. But, I mean, it's a good fiscal management is what it is, because I've been here for a long time, and I've seen some people make some very uneducated choices. I've seen some very uneducated choices presented to members of the community, which I'm a member of this community, live right here in town, And I sat here scratching my head wondering, why are we not doing better than what we've done? And so whenever I'm tasked with anything, I try and put my best foot forward with all the information I can find, what's fiscally responsible, what works best for the community, and what best serves the needs of everybody as much as you can. Which there's no perfect solution to that. But with everything that's out there, the system that we're looking at or basing the grant application off of is kind of the best bang for your buck in terms of longevity, maintenance, install costs, and then the warranties that are available for the products after the fact, after the sale. So, and I don't work for Wayland Systems either, so. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Trina.
So, I'm not sure I understood what you were saying earlier. So the company that came and consulted, they recommended to the size of our city.
Yes.
And they're saying that it will cover the city of Salem.
Yes, it will. It will actually cover more than the city of Salem. And so to understand this completely, this process was put in place 18 months ago. But when you look at the CDBG grant, I don't know how many pages it is. You get the wish book. It's like a phone book. And it was way beyond my pay grade to even attempt to mess with that one. And so that's why we had had MRPC do the grant application for us, because they get really picky when you start requesting that kind of money. They want to make sure that the in-kind matches are there, that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and that we're not just, hey, let's find anything that'll work. We tried to take it a step further than that and, put some science behind our choices, fiscal responsibility behind the choices to make sure that we're, not making mistakes that I've seen made in the past.
Yeah, I know, because several people have wondered, how are we going to go from however many we have now to,
And still have more coverage.
yeah.
And so that's a good question, but that's a part of that two-phase system that I was explaining to the board. And so there's a variety of units available. One has an 800 megahertz and maybe a 300, and then there's like a 700, 500. Two of them weren't very far apart. But the goal of it was that the higher pitch would carry further, and then the lower hertz version would be almost like something you could feel. It's like if you've ever been somewhere where there's a really good bass singer, you can kind of feel it vibrating right here. Or if you'll look at the siren systems on the sheriff's cars, they're called a rumbler. And if the sheriff's car is behind you, you can kind of feel it in your diaphragm. Same thing, same principle, that the vibrations coupled with a higher frequency sound will cover more area than the 8 we've got, which it sounds counterintuitive, but everybody I've spoke with, every municipality and the company, I mean, they say the science backs it up to where it does cover like it's supposed to, actually better than what we've got.
Chief, if I may,
Yes.
just briefly. So just keep in mind, folks, that because we would, if we're fortunate enough to receive one of these grants that we've applied for, at that point, then we would do the official formal request for proposals and quotes, and whomever's submitting those is going to do their own deep dive into what needs to be placed and where and what locations. So, I mean, it may or may not look exactly like this by the time that company does their proposal. So just understand that this is not set in stone. This is what the preliminary information we're using to put the grant application together. Okay, so whatever companies choose to bid on it will need to do their own due diligence. So.
And we'll require the same level from any company that would submit a bid or, throw their hat in the ring to put them up. Good. Okay.
At this time, is there any other questions? Should ask for a round of applause for Chief Chase there. Thank you, Joe. Well, at this time, this will end our public hearing, and I will call our regular scheduled meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise for Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jack, can you please lead us in a prayer?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for this community and everyone in it. We come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we are gathered together to conduct city business tonight. Guide and direct us in everything that we say and that we do, and we thank you for all you do for us. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Alright. First up, roll call. I am present. Alderwoman Dent.
Here.
Alderman Bolerjack.
Present.
Alderman Whalen.
Present.
Alderman Letchworth.
Present.
City Administrator Burbridge. City Clerk Kohler.
Present.
City Attorney Weber.
Present.
Public Works Director Payne. Chief of Police Chase. Finance Director Stacy Houston. I don't see any other city staff with us tonight. Next item up is the approval of tonight's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I will call for the vote. Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
And Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Next up is approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
I will call for the vote. Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
And Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
All right. We have no one for public comment tonight. Next order of business is Mr. Scott Radford. You have some business you'd like to discuss with the board. Come on up to the podium, sir.
I don't really have any prepared remarks. I just want to bring to light the issues that we're having on the utility rates. And would you like to explain how this came to light right now on with the difference in the amount on the calculations and stuff?
Sure.
Or I don't even know if that really even pertains to anything, why it came to light now. Just, the rates hadn't changed, but now the problem has come to light, so.
So, as I've shared with the board, we, staff, have been systematically going through our utility system, and certainly for larger meters, so commercial meters, making sure and double checking that the resolution or multipliers for those meters are set correctly. This is something that with the new meters, the Neptune meters that we use with the new AMI system, there are settings both in the AMI system and in the billing software. And they need to be both set correctly and in alignment with each other. Mr. Radford had come in because we had done a correction on his meter for one of his car washes. And that resulted in a significant increase in what's showing as water usage for his business. So when we as staff looked back through, again, there was a correction to a meter. We had been underbilling him since the installation of the meters in the AMI system. When we corrected this setting for this meter, it jumped his usage by a factor of 10. And that's a significant jump. And so, like I said, we went back and looked. I pulled the history for Mr. Radford's business to see what its historical usage had been. And I sat down with Mr. Radford and we went through that history. We actually went as far back as 2015, so long before the AMI system had been implemented. And mechanical meters, I know you guys have heard this before, mechanical meters slow down over time. They get buildup of minerals from the water onto the impellers, and they slow down over time. And you can see that progression of slowing down over the course of that time. I shared that with Mr. Radford. I think you had indicated you were aware they slowed down, but hadn't seen what I had showed you that day. You hadn't seen them slow down quite that much. So when this next piece is my guess as to what happened when the new system went in, the new meters went in. The first monthly read under the new system showed to be in line with the previous 12 months, and so it wasn't looked at again because it was assumed to be correct. But when you look at that historical usage, it's nowhere near correct for what a car wash is going to run. And so that, and when you actually look at the two car washes, the two locations, we were billing less for the car wash that's in question, the one on the west side of town, which has 7 bays, than what we were billing him for the car wash on the east side of town that has 5 bays. So does that summarize?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And I even asked in years past how that would be possible, but
Gotcha.
they didn't have an answer for me. Anyway, so that brings us to where we are now. I currently pay, my rate per gallon of usage on both water and sewer is the same as a household that just has, a sink and a flush toilet and that kind of usage. So when you multiply that by the amount of gallons that I use for a business like that, we're looking at $4,500 a month utility bills, which is not possible. I mean, it can't happen. It's the only solution with utility bills like that will be to close them and convert the property to other uses, which would kind of be a shame for a town the size of Salem to not have, that business and that service available anywhere in Dane County. But that's the only option with those kind of utility bills. So I don't know if we can work out something with volume discount not being set at the same rate as a house, that uses the amount of water that a household would use. And in addition to, and there's absolutely no way to prove this other than I know it to be a fact, because I even inquired about this as long ago as back when Jack Emery was the water and sewer superintendent, about the amount of water that I actually put back into the sewer system. And he said, when I talked to him, he said there was just no such thing as a sewer meter. That they just don't exist. But I know that through evaporation off of the floors, walls, the amount that sprays out onto the lot, the amount of water that drives off on vehicles and in the backs of pickup trucks as they wash, that I'm guessing I probably put about 70% of the water back into the sewer that comes with the water meter. But I don't know how you would measure that other than I just know the amount of water loss that we have between all of those factors that I said, that, and as we know, the sewer rate's about double what the water rate is. So I'm paying for a lot of water back into the sewer system that I'm not putting back in it. And like I said, I know this is a preliminary thing that I just wanted to make you guys aware that this was an issue, but to go from, if you average them out over the year's time, I've probably been paying about $2,000 a month in utilities, and we're going to jump that up to about $4,500. And if you take that times the 12 months, it's just not there. It's not possible. If it was, I'd give myself a raise. So anyway, if if there's any questions I could ask or answer for any of you guys, or if you want to think about what questions you would want to ask me and get back to me later, you know, that would be good. Just like I said, this is just, I spoke to the city administrator first, which was step one. This is step two, and hopefully we can get this resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Redford. All right, next item up is resolution number 1-2025.
Resolution number 1-2025, a resolution of the City of Salem, Missouri stating intent to seek funding through the Community Development Block Grant Program and authorizing the mayor and city administrator to pursue activities in an attempt to secure funding.
Thank you. This time I'll open it up to the board. If there's any questions. This time, do I have a motion for resolution 1-2025?
I move to approve resolution number 1-2025.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
This time I'll call for the vote. Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
And Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Next up is resolution 2-2025.
Resolution number 2-2025, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute contract change order number 1 between Gray Construction LLC, the City of Salem, Missouri, and James Hedrick, owner of property located at 102 South Washington, Salem, Missouri.
Thank you. This time, does the board have any questions?
Yeah, this is a welcome
Right.
home project. Again, this change order, there's no cost increase or decrease involved. The costs stay the same. It's just a substitution of work. And that's necessary when we go to apply for reimbursement through Federal Home Loan Bank. We're required to provide photographic evidence that work was done, and so that needs to match what is actually approved, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. At this time, do I have a motion for resolution 2-2025?
I make a motion to accept resolution 2-2025.
Do I have a-
I second it.
This time I will call for the vote. Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
And Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Next up is resolution number 3-2025.
Resolution number 3-2025, a resolution between the City of Salem, Missouri, and the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission, MRPC.
Thank you.
And so this resolution is for the grant for the administration of the grant, should we be awarded, the grant that we just had the public hearing about.
Okay.
So, and so it doesn't come into play unless we're awarded funding.
Good.
I make a motion to approve resolution 3-2025.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
And Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Next up, I have committee appointments tonight for the board. I have a recommendation of Kayla Cisco and Lauren Toman to serve on the Finance Committee.
I move to approve the mayor's appointments to the committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
This time I'll call for the vote. Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
And Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
All right. Next up, reports of city officials, boards, and committees. Ms. Burwood, you're up first, ma'am.
So a brief report this evening. Earlier today, myself, Public Works Director Steve Payne, and our Parks and Rec Director Melissa DuBois attended a meeting with FEMA about the flooding event that happened in November for the wastewater treatment plant and the parks. So this was just going over, the official declaration that released funding was made January 1st. So we have until February 1st to go ahead and kind of sign up, get on the list for potential reimbursement of the costs that we've incurred and will incur as we continue to repair both the wastewater treatment plant and the parks. So, like I said, it was kind of instructional, going over how to get registered, kind of what type of expenses are allowable, and how do we move forward through that process. So, like I said, that's kind of step one. We were in attendance. We had a couple of our county commissioners were in attendance. Derek Marfit, Denton County Emergency Coordinator, was in attendance. So we had a pretty good showing for our community as a whole. So yeah, like I said, I just wanted to share that with you all, that's kind of first step. We'll be filling out that paperwork and getting us registered here within the next week or so.
Good.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Sally. Now, let's see. First and foremost, I want to start off with thanking all of our awesome city workers for dealing with this winter weather events that we've been having here lately, keeping the roads clean, keeping our roads protected, and also keeping the lights on and the water working. Thank you guys so much. I mean, you make the city you make the city work. All right. Next up, I want to add, and let's see, we have a blood drive going on tomorrow actually at New Harmony Church from 1:30 to 5:30. Please call 1-800-733-2767 or visit the redcrossblood.org and enter New Harmony Church to schedule an appointment. Let's see. And last but not least, the Salem, Missouri Fireworks Committee up Valentine's. Their trivia night on February the 7th at 6 p.m. at the Healthy Dent County Event Center, which Armory, 1200 West Rolla Road, $100 a table for 6 people max. Table decorating contest, bring your own snacks and drinks. Please call or text 573-247-7847 to sign up, or message to Facebook at Salem Mo Fireworks page. Another great event to help raise money for our fireworks event. Other than that, I don't have anything else tonight. So moving right along, Mr. Payne, you're up next, sir.
Good evening, Aldermen, Mayor.
Good evening.
I'm going to start off by saying thank you for acknowledging the crews. They worked really, really hard. When it came to the power outages, the ice storm, they had about, I want to say it was about 15 call outs that day. One of which, the main power outage that we had, I think put about 15 to 18 customers out of power. Unfortunately, a truck had slid off the road down near Young Street and struck a guide wire holding a pole and snapped the upper portion of the pole off and knocked out the power. I think they had that back online within a couple of hours. I was out there, and the truck that hit the pole had someone pull them out, and they were out of there before anybody could have a conversation with them, unfortunately. So, I mean, it's sad that happened, but I'm just glad the crews got after it. So, as far as the road crew went with the ice storm, they waited until a lot of the rain subsided so that they could put product down and not worry about it washing away right away. So they got out as soon as it slowed a bit and took care of business. Snowstorm, I think they're working really well as a team and getting it knocked out. My office personally, I had one phone call complaint about a driveway having some blockage on it, and when you consider the amount of homes in Salem, that's pretty good. So the crews do what they can not to pack anybody in, but also get it knocked out in a timely manner. So once they move through the main streets and secondary streets, then we worked on the downtown area around the courthouse and knocked that out in a pretty timely fashion as well. So I'll move over to wastewater treatment plant. The crews are still working and repairing systems from the flood damage and doing a great job of documenting that and getting us set up for success when we apply for FEMA reimbursement. They're working diligently to clear tree roots out of main sewer lines from the south watershed. That's from the Magnolia Walmart area and across the highway over to West Hunt Street. There's been some blockages. When you've got these old lines, there's just a lot of infiltration of tree root systems and stuff that are causing us problems. So if you've never seen a tree root ball that's growing inside a sewer main, it's a problem. And then if the public introduces things that shouldn't be in the sewer lines, grease, wet ones, toiletries that aren't supposed to be flushed down the toilet, washcloths, all that stuff jams up our system and becomes a costly, it just costs people their service time if you were out there doing repairs as well. So daily testing continues. Like I said, the water, electric, and street crews are all working great together. They responded to aid the fire department on the unfortunate shelter fire that happened. We had everybody out, all hands on deck, trying to help out with that as much as we could. Sad deal, but they did what they could. So, water department continues to work on service lines across town, did 2 main repairs, cleaned and painted the well houses, and installed new eye wash stations. Replaced a leaking hydrant next to H&R Block, as well as rebuilt a hydrant on South Orchard Street. So the crews are looking to, once the weather clears up a little bit, hopefully, we'll get around to rebuilding some more fire hydrants. And that's my goal. We're going to chip away at that problem that we have that's built up over the years. So we'll continue to attack that. The fire hydrant maintenance crew, they had come to town. They have 72 hydrants left to paint. That'll come spring, summertime when the weather improves. Let's see, electric crew took down your 95 snowflakes before the storm rolled in, so we hated to take them down a little early, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that they didn't blow away. They're continuing to assist the wastewater treatment plant with their repairs, conducting streetlight repairs as they have time. Continue monitoring the contractor that's working on the power feeder line clearing project. And I'd like to take a minute to say thanks to our contractor, Forrester. We might have had a lot of worse outages had it not been for the fact that the board approved and funded the power feeder line 1 being cleared. I mean, if you go over and route yourself down to 3rd Street to our substation, you can almost follow and see the tree clearing that's, they've done a really great job. That, and as well as the 2 crew members we put on that are doing the smaller jobs, I think we really put a dent in things. So hopefully that helped out. I was hopeful that the public would take advantage of the ice storm once it had subsided a little bit and paid attention to their trees that were hanging over their service lines in their yards. If your tree takes out your service line, you know, we can come help get your power back on, but if it takes out your service line and jerks it right out of your house, then you've got a repair that you've got to deal with before we can help. So taking care of your trees in your yard and making sure they're not on your service line is really important. So jump over here to construction crew. The construction crew, I get asked a lot of times, I see this construction crew and they're all over town. Well, the construction crew, they're dividing their time right now between 2 drywall projects. They're finalizing a drywall project in the pilot lounge out at the airport, as well as working on improvements in the dog shelter. And anybody that's done drywall projects knows hanging it, mud and taping it, sanding, repeat, you know, that can take some time. So they bounce back and forth to those projects. So if you see them out there, just know they're doing what they're supposed to. Streets, like I said, one more time, snow and ice removal. They were really on top of things. The system's good. I came out and just tried to work, help where I could and stuff. But unfortunately, they don't let the director run the equipment. So it's probably I'm okay, but, you know, we don't want to experiment. They continued multiple pavement patches across town before the ice rolled in, and there were folks that were concerned about maybe this patch hadn't happened in what they thought was a timely manner. Once we had this patch material and we knew weather was on its way, they were more focused on doing the patches in the snow routes instead of the secondary streets. So there are a lot of patches that still need done, and I lay eyes on them, and my guys have a list, and we're going to work them. So, but that's weather permitting. Let's see. The mechanic's doing his thing, assisted with the wastewater treatment plant repairs. John Ruse, he's everywhere. Worked on several of the city equipment and vehicles, keeping us up and running. Prepared the Purple Wave auction vehicles for an upcoming sale. So cemetery crews are setting up for funerals as usual. One more reminder for the public, citizens, if you know, have done a great job of removing the basketball goals and other obstructions. If you know, keeping trash cans out of the roadways for snow removal is important. Vehicles, you know, as much as possible off of especially narrow 2 lanes. Keeping those off the streets so we can get the clearing done, that's helpful as well. So that's a lot. That's what I got. Do you have any questions?
I do have one, and first I just want to say thank you to the team as well for the past couple of weeks with the ice storm and also the snow. I feel like they managed it very well with minimal power outages. And also a question with the ice and the snow, there's a lot of tree limbs snapped around town in people's yards. Is there a day that we could schedule yard waste pickup around town that we typically do after a storm for that reason?
I guess we haven't had a severe storm really since I'd stepped in, so.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if that's the pleasure of the board, we can look at that. So, okay.
Yeah, we typically charge, I mean, we have people
Right.
that come in and fill work orders out, but I think that would be us doing our due diligence for the community. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll look at the calendar, I guess, and pick a day and publicize
Roger
that?
that.
Okay,
Sounds good.
okay,
Thank you.
sure. I would like to add one kind of follow-up thing. I didn't report about the downtown project. I know Steve's had some conversations with the crew foreman from Magi who's been working on that. At this point, with everything as frozen as it is, their foreman had indicated that they're going to need a good solid 2 to 3 days, maybe more, of thawing temperatures before they're going to be able to get back on working it, because everything's just going to be frozen and solid. So, yeah.
And briefly adding to that, I get asked a lot, and I understand that there's some upset citizens that the project kicked off when it did. This project, as far as I understand, had been in the works for 10 plus years. And when we had the conversation, you know, you look at the different time of year, you know, each time of year, and it's like, what is the best? And when they said Magi Construction was awarded the bid and said they were raring to go and that they could, you know, work it, we pulled the trigger because we want to see it done and we want to see, you know, it look nice. And
Right.
so,
Show that we're moving forward with our
Yeah.
projects, yeah.
so, and I'm out there talking to them on a regular basis. We try to make the area safe for the businesses that do access their doorways. We've hit a couple of snags, and we're working through them. They're a good crew. I think if we had a little bit more of last winter weather right now, we'd be seeing the third portion finished up.
Right.
But
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, right at this time, it's frozen, and yet the forecast for the next couple of weeks is below average temperatures, so, yeah.
Despite what, I don't think that it really matters about what time of the year when you have like a winter storm or even a storm during the summertime. Events like that happen, you know.
Yeah, and on that, though, on the downtown project, our light poles, I've not heard anything different to date, so our light poles, just to give you an idea of timing, are scheduled to be in the last half of February. So, I mean, that's coming pretty quickly. So, like I said, I've not heard that those are on any other schedule, so we're going to go with that for now until we hear otherwise. So I just wanted to share that.
Steve.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
thanks,
you,
Steve.
Steve.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, before I continue forward, Stacy, do you have anything? I'm asking ahead of time. What about you, Ms. Keller? Okay. Just making sure I do my rounds. We'll skip you, James. All right, Alderman reports. Mr. Letchworth, do you have anything to report?
I have nothing to report at this time.
Alderman Bolerjack.
I have no report.
Alderwoman Dent.
I have no report.
Alderman Whalen.
No report at this time.
Sally, I feel like we are all overachievers at this point.
You're welcome.
Well, last but not least, I will need a motion to go into closed session for litigation and real estate.
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second the motion.
Okay, that's what we have listed, isn't it? In your second half.
Sorry, security systems?
So infrastructure,
Yes.
litigation and infrastructure.
There you go.
Okay. Well, it has something to do with real estate. All right. Do I need to re-ask to remake that motion? All right.
Make a motion to go in closed session.
I second the motion.
I will call for the vote. Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Alderwoman Dent.
Yes.
Alderman Letchworth.
Yes.
And Alderman Bolerjack.
Yes.
Thank you all for attending tonight.